I'm Evelyn, and today I'm going to be bringing you through some of my favorite conditioning exercises to do at home to maintain strength and range of motion while you might not have a pole to train on. These are my favorites, and I want you to really listen to your body. I want you to work on executing these with intention so we can build good muscle memory. And if that means doing less reps, more slowly with more control, then that's exactly the way to go. If you get tired while I'm still doing reps, feel free to take a pause and come back in. Listen to your body and really take care of yourself. One thing in particular that I want to speak to before we get started is this idea of a bread box. So when we use our abdominal muscles, we really are tempted to kind of push down and out, which makes our bellies push out and away. Instead, I want you to think about pulling the abs. We're not sucking in, but we're engaging the abs back and down into our pelvic floor, pulling up so that we can have a really sturdy core where our abs are pulling into our back muscles. And you'll feel the low back press more so against the ground when we do that. So that's something I really want you to think about as we move into this Pilates series.
For this next movement, we're going to begin by sitting up straight over our hips. We're going to tuck the pelvis, engage the low abs, and sequentially round and roll our way all the way to the ground, chin to chest, releasing at the bottom. We tuck the chin and we come right back up, pulling those abs in, sitting up straight and folding over the top. We're going to continue to tuck and roll down on the inhale. Then we're going to reach and roll up head first, pressing the abs in and rolling over on the exhale. You have a couple arm options here as you continue to roll down and up with your breath. You can cross the arms over the shoulders or the elbows for the hardest level. But if you find yourself losing form by either bulging your abdomen or having to use momentum to get up, you're going to want to level down, either by extending the arms out in front of you or by gradually walking the fingertips up the sides of the thighs. Continue going forward and back, moving with your breath, keeping your abdomen in mind, pulling those abs in and up, and release. For this next exercise, you'll lay on the ground, keep one foot connected to the ground as you lift the other leg up towards your torso. You're going to lift your shoulders off the ground, press the low back into the ground as you switch your legs, pulling one leg in towards your chest as you drop the other leg down away from your body. Right, left, continuing to breathe. We're going to move straight into bicycle from here. And switch, bring it in. You're going to extend one leg as you spiral the opposite shoulder blade off the ground and cross your center. Extend and switch, switch. You're imagining that you're shooting that straight leg into a hole. You're not dropping it down or lifting it up. You're just going straight out and bring it in. Release down. For this final move, you're going to extend the hands down by your sides and drop the feet down towards the ground, then lifting the hips up and pressing the toes towards the sky. Down to come up and lift. Really thinking about engaging those low abs in and back as you maintain that low back on the ground. Don't drop your feet lower than you can maintain pressing that low back into the ground. Try to move with your breath and feel your back wide across the ground, pressing through the hands and the arms. Lift and lower. Last one. Lower and up to come down. Good. Go ahead and turn over. Feeling the belly on the ground, you're going to bring those hands slightly forward of your shoulders and press yourself up releasing back down. You're going to extend through the crown of the head, lift through the throat, the chest, pulling the ribs forward. You're going to extend the spine down. You're going to be pressing slightly into the hands as you lift and lower, but you really want to be thinking about pressing through the back muscles to lift you up, extending and stretching through the front of those abs. And again, extending up and through, shoulders pulling down, ribs pulling forward, and pressing yourself back down. Bring those hands behind the head and lift the chest up, down, up, down. Keep going, moving with your breath, trying to pull those shoulder blades together as you lift the elbows towards the sky. Gaze moves down and up, trying to press the tops of the feet into the ground. Energy out the toes behind you as you lift up and behind you with the crown of the head. Up, down, and release. Bring those hands under the shoulders and once more press up and back and come all the way into your child's pose. Hold your child's pose for a moment as you feel the crease of your hips, pressing the butt towards the heels, and find yourself to a tabletop, and then tuck the toes and press the hips up and back into your down dog. In your down dog, you're going to find a little movement, bending the knees, lifting and lowering the heels, pressing through the hands, and we're going to lift the heels, tuck the tail, and round ourselves forward into a plank. Then you're going to lift the butt, press back through the hands, and find your down dog, rotating back and forth with the breath, lifting, tucking the pelvis, sequentially rolling through, energy out the crown of the head, pressing into the hands, rotating at the shoulders, and finding yourself back. Keep going. Tuck and roll to hold, lift and press to stretch, finding that full range of motion. From here, we're going to find this last press back into our down dog, and from there we're going to roll forward and hold our plank for just about 10 seconds. We're going to come back and roll all the way through and hold, pressing through the ground, shoulders wide, energy out the crown of the head. And release down. Good job. Press yourself back into your tabletop and stack wrists under shoulders. We're going to press the shoulder blades together tightly and then press them out and around as we round through the shoulders, shrugging them in and back and out and around. Next, we're going to bring them up towards the ears, pull them together, and push them down towards the ribs as we find full circles about 4 times. You'll switch directions, pushing them up and out and down and in, all the way around 4 times. From here, we're going to move into the hips. We're going to tilt the pelvis up and then tuck it down, finding the upward and downward point as we try to isolate the low abs to engage and lift. Then I'm going to rotate the hips in a full circle, trying to find range of motion here, working on trying to keep the shoulders steady. Switch directions. From here, I'm going to move through my cat-cow. So I'm going to press into the ground, rounded, and then I'm going to arch through, pull the shoulder blades together and look up. And I'm going to transition between rounding and arching, trying to move with the breath, really pulling the shoulders through and lifting through the throat on the arch, and engaging the low abs and lifting and pressing the shoulders down and away as you press up and round. Moving into a circle, you're going to be pressing through the side rib, rounding up, pressing through the opposite rib, and then dropping down through an arch. As you press into the hands, you can let the head release. You're going to switch directions. Finally, we're going to go ahead and come center, and you're going to move your hands slightly forward of your shoulders. You're going to tuck that pelvis, engaging the low abs. From here, you're going to shift the weight forward over the hands as you're in a tucked knee plank position. You're going to release the low back as you arch, press the shoulders together, push the ground away, and push back. You round forward, drop to arch, push the ground away to shift back. And those hips aren't dropping all the way down to the ground, nor are they dropping all the way back into the ankles. This is just kind of a mini ripple. Again, moving with your breath. We're going to go the opposite direction, arching and lifting, throat up. I round through the shoulders, tuck the pelvis, and then push myself back. Arching forward, rounding back. Chest shoots through the arms. Chin tucks and you push yourself back. From here, we're going to move all the way into the full kitty movement. So that was a mini one. This is the full. You lift the hips, chest slides on the ground, elbows open. I slide on my belly like a penguin, lift into an arch, chin to chest, round myself back to sitting all the way in child's pose. Again, down and up, elbows open and close. I lift through the chest, tuck the pelvis, round through the shoulders, and push myself back rounded. Open, lift, round, and sit. Trying to open those knees wide if you need to get the chest lower. You can adjust those arms wherever feels most comfortable. Switching directions. We're going to press up and round over. Drop the pelvis to arch into your up dog. Roll that chest down and then lift the hips and press into the ground as you shift your weight back into your child's pose. Round and up to arch. Lower slowly, lift the hips, press into the hands, and push yourself back. 2 more just like that. Rounding to arch, releasing sequentially to push yourself back. Last one. Arch, lower slowly, and push yourself all the way back. From here, we'll be pressing ourselves forward, reaching the chest towards the ground as the hips come up over the knees. You're going to rotate the palms towards the ceiling as the pinkies come in and up, and you're going to pull the shoulders down away from your ears as you press the armpits and the chest down towards the ground, stretching through the shoulders. We're going to hold this pose for a moment, then we'll make fists, press the forearms into the ground, tuck the tail, and we're going to round ourselves up and forward onto our arms, and then drop the hips and lift the chest and hold into a sphinx pose. So I'm really lifted in the abdominals, throat is up, I'm pressing the shoulders down the back, and slowly release the chest down. Find yourself feet pressing into the ground about hip width apart, low back pressing into the ground, arms at your sides, and engage the low abs to lift the hips up and press them back to the earth. You're going to continue to lift and drop the hips as you pull the shoulders away from your ears. You find your knees are pressing in towards each other slightly as they stay in line with your hips. You're pressing your hands and arms into the ground as your back expands across the ground. Lift and lower, lift and lower. Next, we're going to move with a spine undulation. So we're going to begin by arching through the back and lifting up. From there, you're going to round through the shoulders, then round the ribs, and finally tucking the tail to release all the way down. We arch up to tuck and roll through. Again, still pressing the knees in slightly together to track with the hips, pressing through the feet. You can keep your arms down by your sides. I just wanted you to see this spine articulation. Lift, round and drop. Lift up, round and drop. Finally, lift one foot right above the hip, flex through the ankle, and we're going to be pressing up and down, trying to keep that foot over the hip as you continue to track that opposite bent knee in towards your center. Drop and switch to lift up, up, up. Again, you can keep your hands at your sides for this. and 1, bring it down and drop it through. Good. Find your way into a tabletop position, stack knees under hips, wrists under shoulders, and we're going to find a full rotation in the hips. So bend the knee and bring that knee back behind you, up and out towards the chest, and find full rotation about 4 times, and then switch directions, again, painting as wide of a circle as you possibly can with that knee. Last one, bring it down. We're going to switch sides, same thing. Knee comes back, it lifts up and out, in and around, pressing through the hands, trying to find even weight between the shoulders, pressing to the top of the opposite foot, switching directions, 4 big circles moving the other direction. From here, you're going to bring the knee down, press yourself back to sitting, and give your hips and wrists a quick break. Coming back into your tabletop, we're going to keep a 90-degree bend in the leg as we lift it up at hip level. Again, trying to distribute the weight evenly between the hands. Lift, lift, lift. Other side, up, 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 trying to engage that glute, opening through the inside of the thigh as you point the knee out and away from you, maintaining that 90 degrees, up, up, up. Next, we're going to move into kicking the leg behind us while maintaining that 90-degree angle. So we're going to keep the knee in line with the hip, maintain 90 degrees as we press through both hands evenly, lifting, and lift, 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 working on not arching through the back as you lift the knee, but maintaining engagement in the front of the abs, switching sides, behind on the other leg. Keep going. Lift, lift, pressing into the hands, and done. Good work. Take a moment, stretch those wrists. For leg lifts, how far your feet are apart really affects if you do it correctly by engaging the whole leg and pressing up and away, or if you go wide, you have the tendency to lift with the quad and kind of flop the leg out. So you want to really press forward, down into the ground, and lift up and through as you point the knee towards the ceiling for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to switch sides facing the opposite leg, shifting the weight forward if possible for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And finally, we're going to move into the center, again trying to shift our weight forward as we reach forward, knees towards the ceiling, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good work. Let's go ahead and move into a little stretch. So you're going to bring the inside of your right knee down and you're going to extend through the left leg. You're going to roll onto that extended leg as you lift through the bent knee hip, pressing through the front of that hip as you try to touch the knee down towards the ground. Arching through is going to help. Switching sides. You can stay on your hands or your elbows. You can lay all the way down on the ground to feel that stretch deeper. Rotating the hips up. Good work. Coming back to center. Our final series will be going through some lunges to open up our hips and work on splits. Coming into a kneel, you want to make sure your knee is stacked under the hip and your ankle is stacked under the knee. You're going to bring a block down to your hip for support if you'd like it, and you want to make sure that you are not arching, but instead tucking the pelvis, pointing the pelvis up and in. You also want to check your alignment. You want to bring the bent leg in and through to square up those hips, then tucking the hips under and pressing through. You're going to imagine that your knee is pressing down into the ground and you're tucking and trying to drag it towards the front heel as the heel presses into the ground and you try to tuck it and pull it in towards your hips. You're going to be feeling a nice strong stretch. You're going to tuck that back leg, press up, trying to keep your hips where you're at. Again, making sure that you're pulling and squaring up your hips by pulling the bent leg knee in. You can have a block next to your hip for support. And you're going to be trying to drop the hips down as you pull and square the hips in and through. Finally, dropping the knee, extending the front leg. You want to make sure the hips come over the bent knee leg, flex through the foot. You can move your block forward. And you're going to try to square up those hips, find a flat back, pressing into the ground. You're going to try to pull the heel down and in towards the ground as you feel the stretch in that hamstring. All the while really trying to maintain a flat back and square hips. We're going to do that 2 more times. We're going to be holding it for 10 seconds each. So first, knee under hip, pressing to the ground, tucking the pelvis, pulling the knee forward as you feel the stretch in the front of the hip. From here, we're going to shift our weight, tuck the toes, try to keep the hips where they're at, square up our hips, trying to keep knee over ankle. You can use your block for support. Stretching through the front of the straight leg. Drop that knee, press the hips back, extend the opposite leg, press the heel into the ground and pull it in towards you as you stretch through the hamstring, maintaining a flat back, reaching the chest as you press through the hamstring, really extended. Last time, bend that knee. We're going to have a tucked hip. Pull that knee back and in, press that foot into the ground, press that knee into the ground, feel as if you're pulling them together, stretching through the front of the hip. Tuck that back foot, press those hips as you pull and square up the hips, bringing that knee in and back, pressing the hips down, pressing through that extended back leg, heels reaching away from you, chest is lifted. And finally, drop the knee, shift the hips back, extend the front leg, flatten your back, press that heel into the ground as you pull it towards yourself and feel that stretch in the hamstring. Beautiful. Go ahead, tuck that foot in across your center and press yourself into pigeon. We're going to keep the chest up. I want you to feel the stretch in the bent leg hip as well as trying to pull that straight leg hip forward to square up the hips and feel that stretch move into the front of the straight leg or through the back of the glute of the bent leg, bringing the chest down. Holding. Finally, press yourself back up, press yourself into your tabletop, and let's do the other side. Again, starting with your bent leg, block is at the hip, you're checking your alignment, you're tucking the pelvis under, you're squaring up those hips, and you're dragging the ankle in towards yourself as you try to push the knee down into the ground for 10 seconds. From here, you're going to tuck the toes, shift the weight, and press through the ankles. You try to leave the hips where they are. Again, checking if your hips are staying square by pulling that bent leg in and back. Extending through that hip, pressing the hips forward. Drop the knee, shift the hips back, extend that front leg, chest comes over. Pressing the ankle in or the heel into the ground, folding at the pelvis, trying to maintain a flat back. You can see my hips are a little out of line. Make sure your hips are right over your knee. Coming up, bend that knee 2 more times, coming into your double bent kneel. We're going to tuck the pelvis, press the knee into the ground, foot goes into the ground, and we pull them together, stretching through the front of that hip. engaging the pelvic floor, the low abs. From there, we're going to tuck that back foot, shift the hips, and try to keep them nice and low. Square up those hips, again, pressing through the front of the straight leg, pulling the bent knee hip back and in. Breathe. Drop that knee, shift the hips back, extend through that front leg, bring the chest down, maintaining a flat back by folding up the pelvis. Make sure your hips are over your knees. Pressing the heel into the ground, feeling as if you're dragging it in towards you. And finally, last time, bending the knee, tucking the pelvis, pulling it in, and hold. Chest is lifted, hips are tucked. Go ahead, tuck that back foot, press it up and away from you as you keep the hips where you are. Try to shift that hip up and forward and hold. Yes, pressing through the back leg. Go ahead, drop that knee, shift the hips back, extend the front leg, press the heel into the ground, flex foot, flat back over, pressing the heel into the ground and trying to pull it in towards you. Finally, move into your pigeon by crossing that leg in front of you, dropping the hips down, chest is staying up, and just find some comfortability, stretching through the hip, the glute. Bring that chest down, breathing, releasing, melting. Great job. None of this stuff was easy. Thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to revisit any of these gestures, and I look forward to seeing you soon.